look to the hill in the far left corner over there. This particular piece of weaponry can fire 3 155 shells in the air at the same time.
Brigadier General Chris Murray has a distinguished military career as a decorated officer, including being commander of the British forces in Bosnia and the director of the Royal Logistic Corps. He's now a leadership expert and non-executive director.
In a proper war-fighting circumstance, army logisticians worry about 2 things: bulk fuel and artillery ammunition.
Chris's experience and expertise in leadership is extraordinary and expansive. Having had thousands under his command, he has learned how to lead at scale, yet with a personal touch. This authentic approach has resulted in many high-performance outcomes.
When you're very young, you're leading people who are much older than you, or there's a number of who are young soldiers who are your age, and the corporals and the sergeants and the staff sergeants are older than you.
So how was it working with other nations that might have a slightly different perspective or different capabilities militarily? How was that?
They all bring something to the party, and I was working with, I had a New Zealand contingent
Right.
when I was in Bosnia.
Yeah.
And they all do it slightly differently.
Yes.
And that's almost the wonder of it, the beauty of it.
Chris, great to see you. You're my first Brigadier General to come and talk to me.
It's my privilege to be here.
I didn't know whether to sort of salute or just give you due deference, but
None of that required.
you're giving me some PTSD because my background, my father was in the military and his father, so this is it's kind of an ode to that heritage to have you here. So thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate you taking the time.
No, it's a treat to come and chat to you.
So we're both here for the post-harvest board meeting, so we're looking forward to spending some time with you on that. It's a great thing they're doing, and looking forward to hearing your perspective on those things.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued by post-harvest, and I'm at that stage in my life where I only do things I want to do, Mark. So I only want to get engaged with things that excite me, and it's almost partly the higher purpose of post-harvest, which is saving significant food waste in the supply chain. Makes me want to get involved, and then I only work with nice people, and I like the people in the team, and then it makes it much easier.
Absolutely, it's a good stage of life, isn't it?
It is.
And you've had quite the career. How did you get involved in the military in the first place? Was that something you always wanted to do?
I think, to be brutally honest, my first choice of career would have been the police force in the United Kingdom.
Yep.
But you'll see as we go through that it's all been about service and public service, and I think I'm a public servant at heart. But back in the day when I was trying to do that, there was a height limit to get into the British police force that I didn't make. These days I'd be fine, but not. And I'd been in the cadet force at school. It was probably the thing that I excelled at. It said in my school reports, Mark, that Christopher excels at everything not on the curriculum, right? So I think I was...
it's words to live by.
So I was bright and capable, but idle, probably, or if I was enthused about something, I could excel. And so...
a lot of successful people, I think, have exactly the same report card. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and I think I underachieved academically, but if there'd been an A level for running the cadet contingent, then I'd have got it.
Yes.
But it was then a natural thing to drop into the army. And I joined as a soldier in the very first instance.
Right.
As a trooper in the Royal Tank Regiment, but always with a view on a path to commissioning.
Yep.
Past the regular commissions board process, and then was at Sandhurst in my 18th year. So I joined the army at 17.
Yep.
Got commissioned, non-graduate, and found myself on operations at 19 years old.
Wow.
Commanding 45 soldiers in Cyprus doing a humanitarian operation for the UN.
Yes.
So that was a wonderful baptism of fire.
Yeah.
Then I found I had the bit I liked most was standing up in front of soldiers and getting them to come with me on a journey. And then I found that my very best skill was leading soldiers.
Yes.
And in my last 15 years in the army, I was in command for 14 years of that, which is pretty much unprecedented.
Yeah.
Probably because I was a rubbish staff officer. So I thought we can't trust Murray with the cerebral stuff, but we'll get him to
leave him there.
give him a chance to
the
lead
real
soldiers.
world.
Give soldiers.
That's an extraordinary amount of leadership pressure for a young man. And did
Yeah.
you find it was something that you just naturally had some gifting for? Obviously, you've learned a lot over the years, but did you feel there was some natural inclination and ability to lead?
Yes, I think so. It's too tough to be an army officer with the responsibility of leading people and being responsible for their lives on operations to do it half-heartedly, right?
Yeah.
So you either want to do it and you feel that you can. And funnily enough, I was talking to somebody about it this very day. And when you're very young, you're leading people who are much older than you, or there's a number of who are young soldiers who are your age, but the corporals and the sergeants and the staff sergeants are older than you. But they also trust you. They know you've been well trained, right? The Royal Military Academy Sandhurst is a globally recognised institution of excellence for teaching young men and women to be army officers.
My father was one of the first grammar school kids to go through Sandhurst.
Yeah, and as I was coming through in 1975, I was a comprehensive school boy from North London, and not perhaps the image people had of army officers.
People forget that generation before that just didn't happen.
No, there were lots of double-barreled names. There
were.
Shaped noses.
Chinless wonders.
And red trousers.
Yeah.
But I think the soldiers recognise that you bring something to the party.
Yeah.
The boss has been trained. So you get a little bit of a start, but then they have to trust you. And you have to earn that. So you don't just put the badge on and the trust follows. They accept that you've probably got some extra skills, and especially in the infantry combat area, you've been trained to probably a better standard than most junior soldiers in the wider part of the army. But they have to trust you, and that's in order to do that they've got to know you, and you've got to know them. And then gradually they get it, and then once you've got that, they'll do anything. So
Right.
just a small story, but
Yes.
it was only even in my very last job as a brigadier, my corps regimental sergeant major, so the RSM of RSMs
Yes.
of my corps, he said to me one day, he said, "Boss, if you rang me and said we're going into the gates of hell tomorrow, all I'm going to say is what time we're going and what we're wearing." So
That's great.
that was a lovely thing for him to say to me,
That's
which is,
lovely, yeah.
boss, I see you, I get you,
Yeah.
and I've been with you long enough now to know
I get it.
that your heart is in exactly the right place,
Yeah.
and whatever you're going to do,
Yeah.
I'm coming with you, right?
Yep.
And luckily he was
They're units, aren't they?
six foot tall and
Yeah.
4 foot wide, and was my sort
good
of
at shouting.
bullet catcher minder, as it were.
Yeah.
So-
and what
yeah,
a
so
wonderful
those-
compliment, though, to your leadership. But
I-
when you've got someone like that who's willing to express it in that way, you must have found that it would have been like a special time
Yeah.
to hear that from someone.
Somebody
of
that senior as a soldier, the senior soldier
Yeah.
of my corps. No, it was a privilege to hear it, and it was mutually respected too. So
Absolutely.
I lent on him for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But as a very junior guy, you're not on your own. You've got senior NCOs who are guiding you, who won't let you get too too far out of your lane.
Sure.
But also they acknowledge that, you're probably brighter than most of them, and you've been trained in thinking through difficult things and coming up with a plan.
Yeah. So can you take us through some of the key roles that you had before you went to staff college and did sort of the big end roles? What kind of things were you doing? Which corps you in, logistics and engineering and things?
Yeah. So I was commissioned into the Royal Corps of Transport, and the beauty of that corps is really, really diverse. You could do so many things on the four corners of the planet. Brit transport squadrons in Cyprus and places like that. Then I joined a Gurkha regiment in Hong Kong.
Wow.
They're
magnificent, aren't they? Just phenomenal people.
And so different from British soldiers. And we could probably do a whole podcast about Gurkha soldiers if we wanted to. But a real privilege, probably the most fun a young 22-year-old lieutenant could have in Hong Kong. I was the Saracen troop commander, so I had 15 armoured personnel carriers for public duty reasons, really, public disorder training for the infantry battalions. But I could take them all around the colony doing whatever I wanted to do. A life of getting up early, doing fitness, playing basketball in the afternoon. Amazing social life.
Fantastic.
So I enjoyed that. I was sent to Brunei to be the transport and movements officer. Nothing moved in and out of Brunei unless I'd fixed it with my small team. Again, commanding Gurkha soldiers there as well.
Yeah.
Jungle warfare training, and all of the fun things that go with that sort of service. And then I actually started to learn a lot there in terms of operating alongside commercial airlines, running charter aircraft and things like that. So the start of my logistic expertise to being broadened was good. But actually it was the time of the Cold War, and the real place to be was in Germany. So, back and into Germany, waiting for Three Shock Army to crush over the inner German border.
Yes. You moved to New Zealand at that stage.
Yeah, and we were very good at what we did. We trained very well, So I was a product of the Cold War, but then logistically, I tell people now I'm not a good logistician. I really am not. But I'm an army logistician, so my expertise is very much at the violent end of the supply chain, Mark.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be the best person to tell you how you might improve your commercial supply chain or your inventory management and things like that.
Yeah.
But getting things done in difficult circumstances.
Yeah. What were some of your key challenges in that kind of scenario, the ones that you can tell us about?
I don't think there's anything I've ever done that I couldn't tell you about.
Okay.
It all depends.
Apart from the thing you're not going to tell us about.
Depends about no, very, very few things.
Yep.
I think challenge one, young major, Gulf War I, running artillery ammunition for 1st Armoured Division as we were preparing to break into Iraq to retake Kuwait.
Massive logistics.
We had probably 70% of the British Army's logistic capability spread out over an extensive line of communication in order to make this work. My job was the last 100 miles of that to get the right artillery ammunition in the right place to sustain the guns.
And so mission critical too, something like that.
Yeah, this is no fail stuff. So sometimes if something logistically poor happens in Woolworth's supply chain, nobody dies, right?
Sure.
Delivering ammunition to the artillery in a major break-in battle was something that was mission critical, and if you didn't get it right, it would be the consequences would be devastating.
So how much of that was pre-planned? You understood the logistics of what needed to happen and when it needed to happen and how, and the people you had working for you? And how much of it was, this is a new scenario, we need to reshape what we do?
A bit of both, Mark, right? So you understand the principles of it, and you understand the volumes of it. So in a proper war-fighting circumstance, army logisticians worry about two things: bulk fuel and artillery ammunition.
Right.
And that's because you can use an awful lot of it very quickly.
Right.
Talking about rations for soldiers, I could feed 600 soldiers on a pallet of rations. I could feed a brigade with a truckload. They've got 5 days of it. Every soldier can only eat one ration a day, generally speaking. So you could solve a logistic problem to do with ammunition or small arms ammunition very quickly. A small amount of lift fixes a huge problem. With artillery ammunition, probably there's only a half a day's worth of ammunition being held by the guns themselves and their own echelon vehicles. So if you get that wrong, then the guns are just 30-ton mobile radios, right? And if you haven't got fuel, they're not even mobile, right? So so a combination of fuel and artillery ammunition really important.
Yeah.
So you understand the principles of things, you understand the volumes, but the distances here were unique, and also we were being channeled through a very narrow gap. And the problem is getting through the gap and then getting back through the gap to go to the more ammunition that you've laid on the ground somewhere else. And then the gunners never want to fire their own ammunition, so they want you to put some ammunition down that the guns come up to and take that ammunition away. So now you're operating in front of some of the other fighting organisations in order to get ammunition to the guns. But then when they turn up, they take a small amount of ammunition, fire it. And one of the problems in Iraq, one of the nice problems in fighting the Iraqis at that particular time, is they were retreating quicker than we could engage them.
Okay.
So we were having...
So that's a logistics issue as well.
We're now scattered.
Yeah.
Millions of pounds worth of ammunition.
Yeah.
All over the desert.
Yeah.
And so luckily I've recorded an 8-figure grid square everywhere where I've left 10 pallets of ammunition or 4 rocket pod, 4 flat racks of rocket pod containers or something like that. So yes, I mean, look, interesting.
Yeah.
Doctrinally not too tricky to do.
Sure.
But the
Big,
volume,
flat space.
Yeah. But also not almost pre-GPS. So you never want to send one young soldier with a truck halfway across a flat desert. So they're better off if you send them in lumps of 30.
Yeah. And so you felt that that was a good job. Your troops did well.
Extraordinary.
Fantastic. So good. And so important to get those. I mean, that makes all the difference if you've got the right things in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, but the other thing is if you've been training for war for a long time, and this is the first war that you've had at that level of war fighting, you want to be a part of it, right?
Yes.
You wouldn't want to be the only person in the regiment who didn't go.
Yes.
And in many ways, one of my trickiest personal problems was I volunteered to get there a bit earlier.
Yeah.
Much to the sort of eyebrow raising of my wife.
Mm.
And I said to her, darling, the only thing worse than going on operations is not going.
Yes. That was I think I mentioned when we talked before about my father, his regiment was 161, which was the ones that were in the Falklands. And he just left, just moved to New Zealand, left the British Army just before that happened. Absolutely
could not have been
his
more
heart
upset.
out.
Yeah. Couldn't have been more upset to have
just
trained for it and then not done
totally
it.
Trained for a lifetime and never actually got to engage. That was another logistics issue. We probably won't talk about the Falklands because it was another whole logistics challenge too, wasn't it? You were saying they're down to just a few rounds per gun.
Yeah. And not necessarily a shortage of ammunition, but shortage of ammunition in the right place and the inability to move it.
Getting it off the
ships, Look, that's why logisticians were put on the planet, right?
So when you were leading the 143 Brigade, that was after Iraq? Or was that?
Yes, significantly after Iraq.
Okay.
So I did, so it was my first Brigadier's job.
Yes.
In 143 Brigade. And I done Iraq as a baby major, and then I
Right.
commanded my squadron, then I commanded my regiment, and then I'd done some other really interesting things.
Yes.
But this was my first brigadier's job, running a chunk of the United Kingdom, one of the West Midlands region, and all of the counties around there. And a real privilege, and in particular working with the blue light services there. Work at the time when people were very focused on resilience, and a whole new range of capability to deal with chemical warfare and all sorts of things. So really interesting times, getting to work alongside the blue light services.
So when you say blue light services,
Police, army, police, ambulance, and fire.
yep.
And because the military have no responsibility here unless they're invited to
Right.
to take part. But we had this expression that we were. I had no responsibility, but I knew I could make them better.
Right.
And we had this expression which was leading from behind. Right.
Yes.
So we're not responsible, but if you allow me to come and help you, I can make you better by. One of our skills is deployed command and control, right?
Yeah.
It's our bread and butter to set up in the middle of nowhere, put up a map,
Make things happen.
plug in
Yeah.
all of the bits and pieces.
So it's leadership by influence.
Yeah. But I help them with some of their joint training. I did some joint training for them. And we decided that one of the best things I could do if there was a big regional crisis was to provide the place where they could all come and plug into.
Right.
We'll provide the tent, the tea, the map, but they will all be better as a consequence of that. And then thoroughly enjoyed doing
Yeah.
all
So
of
quite
that.
different to what you were doing before.
Completely different. And then also running, and the day job really is running the infrastructure of all of the army estate, the training estate.
Lots of complexity there.
Yeah, and recruiting the reserves, training the reserves, all sorts of interesting things that go on that nobody really knows about. But
Yes.
but you'd notice them if they weren't there.
And then you got the shift through to Bosnia.
Yeah,
How long were you there? Because you were kind of the last out.
6 months.
Okay.
So I was the last commander of British Forces Bosnia.
Yeah.
I'd been to Bosnia at the very beginning. We had a United Nations organisation in there that did not have a very robust mandate, and so they struggled. It's okay, you can have a United Nations thing if both sides, or if all of the sides broadly agree that there is a peace to be kept.
Yes.
You can invite the UN to come and help you do that. Like Cyprus. In Cyprus, you've got the Turks in the north, Greeks in the south, and the United Nations sit in the middle.
Yeah.
But you're all there with everybody's understanding that that's the case.
So there was quite a lot of criticism of how things were handled, and but simple answers rather than the real complexity of what was obviously a very difficult set of circumstances.
Yeah, but you're only as good as your mandate, right?
Totally.
So this was then to the next. So I went with the first NATO reconnaissance, where this United Nations thing wasn't working. So the NATO was going to come in, and we were going to implement a peace. So this is completely different now.
Yeah.
So we're coming in. We are going to separate the belligerents, and we are coming with all of our warfighting kit. And Balkans man generally understands, they had grown up through the Soviet era of, they understood artillery and all the rest of it. So one of the first things that NATO did on arrival was to give them a firepower capability demonstration.
Right.
Right. So all of you come sit
Shock
down
and
here.
awe, shock and awe.
So
Come and have a look.
You all have armor. Let me show you ours.
Yeah.
Bring a Challenger tank or a Abrams tank up. You probably haven't got any of these though, which is the Apache. I know you're very familiar with artillery,
awesome.
but here's our artillery base. Look to the hill in the far left corner over there. This particular piece of weaponry can fire 3 155 shells in the air at the same time.
Right.
And we've got,
Fire for
these
effect.
come in multiples of 18, right?
Yep.
So watch us while we take the top off of that mountain. These 2 jets that have just screamed over your head have come off of a carrier in the Adriatic.
Right.
We're the big boys around here.
So demonstration of force.
Demonstration of force,
Okay.
and then allow a safe and secure environment to just become established.
Yeah.
So we went to the United Nations, had a Brit contingent in it, and it went for about, initially they went for a 6-month deployment, and I closed the operation 14 years later.
Okay. So so yeah, bookends on the whole conflict. So how was it working with other nations that might have a slightly different perspective or different capabilities militarily? How was that?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And they all brought something to the party, right? And I'd had quite a bit of that because I'd worked in I'd worked in NATO and I worked in the Allied Reaction Corps.
Okay.
So I'd had,
Right, so
I'd
you had
commanded
some
a
background
staff
on
that had Italians, Canadians, Americans, all Spanish, all sorts of people. So they all bring something to the party. And I was working with, I had a New Zealand contingent when I was in Bosnia.
Yeah.
Chilean contingent, all sorts of other nations, and they all do it slightly differently.
Yes.
And that's almost the wonder of it, the beauty of it. But my job was to, close it down, leave a lasting legacy behind. A safe and secure environment had been achieved. So if you carry on staying there, then there's an issue because if there is a safe and secure environment, why are you still here? So
Yeah, but
we had
withdrawing well, ending well is not easy.
ending
is it?
well, really important. And
So what was the thinking at that time around how to do that well? Because there's plenty of examples recently where it hasn't gone quite as well.
yeah, familiar of some of the things that haven't gone quite so well, and they tend to be partly because more recently perhaps the job hasn't been finished.
Right.
So the beauty about Bosnia was that the job was done. So a safe and secure environment had been achieved,
Yes.
and therefore we were able to go. But then you've got to go well.
Yeah.
And as I say, I remember as I was being appointed to go, the first ever logistics officer that's ever been Commander British Forces Bosnia. But that's because it was a largely logistic thing, right? I'm trying to pack this thing up and and bring it home in good order. But part of it is as I say, leaving a lasting legacy behind. The way we take care of the people that we've employed for the last 14 years is really important.
Totally.
Making sure and fighting for to make sure that they got a pension gratuity as we were leaving.
Yeah.
I remember the disposal agency people came out and said, we can get rid of we've got a buyer who wants to come and buy everything in our garrison thing. And I said, that's not the way I want to do it. I've got 650 civilian staff here, and I want to be able to offer them the opportunity to buy a Coromet container and 2 beds and 2 wardrobes and 6 chairs, if they would like. And so instead of us just getting one check from somebody for everything, I'm going to make it 650 times more complicated.
For the right reasons.
For the right reasons.
I love it.
Because we're going to go with them thinking well of us, that we left them in good order. We had some equipment that we didn't want to take home, so we gifted it. I gifted some fire engines to the Sarajevo Fire Training School and to the Banja Luka Fire Department where we were, because I wanted them to engage the locally employed civilians that we trained, who were probably the best trained firefighters in the country.
Absolutely.
And I felt that we could leave them in a better place, Mark, than when we'd arrived.
That's a great way to look at it. Chris, I got 1,000 questions for you around leadership. But before we get into some of those lessons you've learned, You then transitioned a little later into the civilian world.
Yeah.
And so what were you doing in that? I know you're doing some consulting and things, but what exactly were you bringing to the rest of us who sort of stand back from the defence side of things?
Yeah, so my last job in the Army after being Commander of British Forces was the Director of the Royal Logistic Corps, where I was the head of family of the entire Army logistic capability.
Amazing.
So 16,000 regular soldiers, 5,500 reserves.
Yep. You knew their names.
There's one or two of the younger ones I didn't get.
That's a huge cohort of people.
But I'm their I'm the father of the organisation. I'm there to create, authorise the doctrine, what equipment they're going to have, how they're going to be trained on it, select the next generation of leaders, but then get around the world and remind them that they're doing a brilliant job, and I'm very proud of them.
Love it.
So
That would have been a fun role.
Oh, you can't have more fun with your trousers on, Mark. So I then left the Army and was engaged by a company who were a defence logistic company, and they wanted me to set up something in the United Kingdom. So they were globally present and were working for the Americans, but they had nothing in the UK. And so that they invited me to come along and do that, which I did from scratch, built a little business, won a piece of business, did it well, won another piece of business, did that well, and as you know even more than I, your reputation is really important. So the way you do something. So I clearly had a reputation from being in defence, but now I was a contractor, and that's quite a tricky thing to do. But in particular, we won a piece of business to go back into Afghanistan to help get rid of all of the equipment that defence didn't want to bring home. And I won a contract to take that from them, some 10,000 sea containers of kit, and to realise some value from that and to sell it into the market and just really and save defence millions of dollars in not moving it back.
Yep.
Took them a lot of blood and treasure to get the stuff into the country. Absolutely. They didn't want to spend too much blood and treasure getting it back out if they didn't need it to be at home. Yeah. Now, this is not warlike stuff, so we're not talking about weaponry and stuff, but it could be anything else from furniture to MRI scanners.
Because there's so much more than just military things, isn't it? I mean, everything that goes with that.
We created a town.
Yeah.
More like a city, I guess, but we created a town in Helmand province called Camp Bastion. 10,000 people there at max capacity or at our max time, with a 25-kilometre fence around the outside of it, right? So, it was stuff. It all had stuff. And all that stuff had to go somewhere. Yeah. So I really enjoyed doing that and other things besides to working for defence, albeit not in defence. Yeah. Although my wife was a bit anxious that I was in and out of Afghanistan so often. She did say to me,
"Now you're a civilian, it's going to be fine."
Yeah, you survived being in the Army, and here you are now busily going back into Afghanistan. If you get killed as a civvy, I'm going to be really cross. So
it's not unreasonable. Can I just mine you for that's an extraordinary story of leadership getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and different sorts of responsibilities, all sorts of areas, from command and control through to leadership by influence, and then into a civilian environment. There's so much going on there. What do you think some of the key leadership lessons you've learned over the years that have become part of the DNA that you might even just take for granted?
I think it's worth going all the way back to this 18-year-old boy at Sandhurst, where the motto of Sandhurst is serve to lead, right? So this is a servant leadership style.
Yeah.
So I became particularly and urgently aware that I was only as good as the people that I was leading. And so the very best thing for me to do is to get to know them and for them to get to know me, so that when I was asking them to do something that their instincts told them not to do, they were going to do that. And when you're asking people to do things in very tricky circumstances, you could just feel their eyes burning into the side of your neck there, which is, I hope the boss is not going to squander my life.
Yeah. Huge trust.
Yeah.
In that.
And some of them will come along for the ride out of curiosity, right? Let's see where the boss is taking it. But broadly, the key message is take care of your soldiers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's more than just, people have this sort of misnomer, I think, about military, that it's command and control. And there is an element of,
it's about that.
This is up here for thinking, but those true pupil dynamics of creating trust, building relationship, asking people to do the unreasonable thing and seeing them actually be willing to do it. It's another game, isn't it?
I think people think the army only gets things done because I've got a bigger badge than you, right? So, and on occasions, I've had to say, after a fairly lengthy conversation with some people, I was like, look, scissors, paper, rank side. Oh, look, I am still in charge, right? But you don't get people to do tricky things by ordering them to do it.
100%.
You get them to understand why it's important, what their part of the plan is, why their part is so crucial. And you don't send a high threat EOD operator down to do a job by just pointing down the road, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, this is their day job. They're very good at it.
Yeah.
And they take extraordinary risks. And some of the citations that I've read, some of them sadly posthumously, they're very humbling to read. But you don't get people to do extraordinary things by just telling them to do stuff. They have to believe that you care about them, that you're sending them, that you've thought about it, that you're sending them to do the thing because it's important, and that you've rationalised it, and that you've reduced the risk as best you can.
Yeah.
So, fundamentally, that's at the heart of it.
Yeah.
Wake up, I used to select the next generation of officers for my corps.
Yeah.
I go to Sandhurst and have these sort of regimental sort of selection corps boards, and we got to the end of it, and I'd say, Mark, look, Sandhurst is going to decide whether you're going to be a second lieutenant or not. My job is, I think you're going to be a good fit for us? Are you going to, but crucially, are you going to take care of my soldiers? When you wake up in the morning, are you going to do your best to look after the people I entrust in your care?
So that was the defining thing for you?
Yeah. And for some of them, they'd never been asked that question.
Yeah.
Do you promise me to take care of my soldiers?
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it in that way.
Yeah.
But the one-star boss of this organisation seems to care an awful lot about it.
Yeah.
And it was, it's one of my big things, right?
Yeah, no, I like that. That's
take
good.
care of my soldiers.
Yeah, totally. So looking after those that you have authority over, serving them, building relationship with them, so that and building that relationship to the extent where they understand why, what it's all about, and having that sort of level of connection. Anything else come to mind as far as leadership principles that we can apply in the non-defense world? I think all those are absolutely true in any organisation, regardless of what the outcomes or what the mission is.
I think one of them used to be, for me, things go well that you check.
Right.
So we assume everyone's going to do a good job and all the rest of it, but actually, if I'm the commanding officer of my regiment and I say, I'm going to take a particular interest in this, there's a really good chance that some of the subordinate commanders are going to get there before me to check for them, to check for themselves.
Right.
My job is to train people for war, right?
Yeah.
And it's, and we could put this into a civilian context, right? The job of the CEO of the company is to make sure that everyone inside the organisation knows what it's doing. They've all got their own skills, but they're training them for the objective, the mission.
Absolutely.
To fulfil the vision of the company.
Yeah.
Some of that gets lost in translation in the commercial world, but in our world, it's very clear. We've been put on this planet to do this.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that you all individually are fit, capable, can do your job, then the kit that I've given you to do this, it needs to work, and I'm gonna check some of these things, and I want to see it out all up at the same time, and I want to be really sure if we are asked to go and do our job, we can roll out, and that I have trained you so well that all of the things that really matter are there in your DNA, because you've then got some capacity to think about the things that are going to go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got to be able to do routine things routinely in order that officers in particular have got the capacity to cope with the thing that goes wrong.
Absolutely.
So I would say to my commanders, when you wake up in the morning, you ask yourself, where will my organisation go wrong today? Where is the biggest scope for a drama in my organisation? And it might not be the biggest thing that's going on, but it could be something where there's an awful lot of complexity.
Yeah.
I could be moving 600 tons of ammunition with a squadron from A to B, but we've done a lot of that. We know what we're doing, but I'm moving a field hospital and some other things by helicopter. So now we've got so much complexity going on there. Probably the very best place for me to be is at the maximum point of potential confusion,
right?
In order to bring a command and control
so
direction.
identifying
Something's gone wrong. I can change the plan.
Identifying
very quickly.
those areas of vulnerability, things that are mission critical, things that might be slightly outside the ordinary, and getting ahead of that, points of constraint and things.
Yeah,
love that. That's really good. What about your own personal life? I mean, one of the things that I talk to leaders about is looking after, number one, is not selfish. You've got to look after yourself if you want to serve others. Do you have certain disciplines in your life that have sort of helped you maintain yourself and your availability to do what you do?
That's a great question. I think, first of all, keeping fit is quite important.
Good scotch?
Good, yeah.
It's leadership lesson number one.
Leadership lesson number one.
Good scotch isn't important.
Good scotch. No.
Yes,
keeping yourself fit to do the job.
Yeah.
And now, cracky, I'm very old now, so my job is to keep myself fit to look after, so I'm flexible that I can still look after my grandchildren, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's important. New duties.
I do, and I've spent my life. I love fixing things for people. Right?
Okay.
I mean, not
problem solver,
not in a DIY sort of way, but I've been on the planet for quite a long time. I've got lots of contacts, and I chat to two different people. I see somebody with a problem and somebody with a solution, and I spend all of my time really enjoyably joining up the dots.
Love that.
You know, so I love doing that. I get a real buzz from that. Although my wife tells me sometimes she's talking to me about a problem, she doesn't want a solution. She just wants me to listen.
That is very true.
She just wants me
to listen. That is
true. And perhaps I'm not so good
I'm still
at that.
working that out, but it is,
I'm halfway
apparently
through.
True.
I'm halfway through her thing. So, darling, I can see the solution here.
Yes.
And she said,
"Don't fix me.
I don't want to be fixed.
No.
Just sit there and nod and a little bit of
yeah,
that you understand."
So this phase of life, you've got grandkids now. You're doing some of the things you want to do.
Yeah.
What do you see as the sort of fruit of this season? What kind of legacy do you want to leave?
I think I'm privileged enough to have legacies in my family and in my professional life.
Yeah.
So I have in my family, my wife and I are still together, 45 years marriage, which is quite unusual in military circles.
Yep.
Two fabulous sons. Both who have married with gorgeous daughters-in-law and 4 grandchildren,
awesome.
and I see that legacy of the way we, with a fairly light touch, supported them to do whatever they wanted to do and gave them some direction and advice if it was called for, but didn't push them too hard. And they tell us that was a lovely way to do it.
Yeah.
I see them as great parents. And again, they're normally gracious enough to say, "Well, we had some great role models in you and Mum." So, so I love seeing all that come to fruition. But I'm at that stage now where I can spoil my grandchildren, which I love doing too.
Grandfather's duty.
And then really on the professional side, the legacy of the professional state, the Royal Logistic Corps is a source of immense satisfaction to me. Not that I'm responsible for anything other than a small slither of it, but all of the people I've sort of touched along the way, I would say to people, you're about to leave my command, but you never leave my sphere of influence or care, right?
Great.
And if you need me in 10 years' time because you want me to have a look at your CV or something, or you want me to try and get a job for you with somebody, then I would do that willingly. And then I've got a whole bunch of people who I love mentoring, and I get the biggest thrill when I see them blossom and grow.
There's something great about that, isn't there, seeing that?
Yeah. And even a few days ago, I was in one of the companies where I'm the defence advisor, talking to a young lady who's an amazing superstar, young leader, and she said to me, "Chris, would you be happy to mentor me?" And I really didn't know her very well, and I wondered why she had chosen me, and it's just that in the very short period of time that I'd been with her, she must have liked the style or something, or reckoned that she could learn something from me. So even the fact that she'd asked me to do that was a privilege, and of course it's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
And if I can, more often than not, and I'm sure you do the same, Mark, when I'm mentoring people, I ask them to tell me what does their intuition say, and more often than not, they are
absolutely
97 times out of 100, they're bang on. And the last couple, they're probably close, and just had they thought about one small aspect of communication to do with that.
Yeah.
But more often than not, they know what to do. They just like to bounce it across somebody.
Gives them confidence and a bit of an art.
Yeah.
Brigadier General Chris Murray, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. Really enjoyed the conversation. I think we could talk all night about this, but I really appreciate you coming and sharing some of your wisdom. Congratulations on the fabulous career you've had, and you're still contributing, which is great. So thank you so much for coming.
No, it's been a privilege to be with you, Mark.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for joining us at the Lead Well, Live Well vodcast. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you want to know more about what we're all about, you can find us at leadwelllivewell.com.au.